if you let a failure stop you, you wouldn't get very far. That's for sure. You just got
Yeah.
to learn from them. You have to
Yes.
fail. How do you grow if you don't fail, right?
The more I'm failing, the closer I am to it. Yes.
Jennifer Conryod is the founder of Fluid Running, a revolutionary approach to pool workouts. She is Ironman finisher and 18-time Boston Marathon qualifier.
I had to have cervical surgery. I was in such excruciating pain, nerve pain leading up into that surgery. And I tell people the only time I was not in pain was when I was in the pool fluid running.
I guess that's the other thing. Like being in water is soothing to the nervous system.
That's a fact. I kind of refuse to take, there's not a solution to this. It's not that I don't take no, but I just always believe that there's a way.
See, that's a mindset of excellence. Like it's like, how can I find a solution? Not is there a solution? It's like, how can I find it? You never know what a positive action can lead you to. Hello, everyone. I am so thrilled to share today's conversation with an outstanding human being who brings excellence to what she does. My guest today is Jennifer Conryod. She's an Iron Woman, or actually Iron Man, but she's an Iron Woman finisher and an 18-time Boston Marathon qualifier, which actually is a big deal. We'll go over that. But most importantly, she's the founder of Fluid Running, deepwater running fitness company. She is certified by the American Council on Exercise and the Aquatic Exercise Association. Jennifer created Fluid Running after an injury training for a marathon. She's so passionate about exercise and does not want us or anyone to stop because of pain, age, weight, or fitness level. So, friends, if you don't want to stop and you want to keep growing, progressing, and learning about the mindset of excellence, then join us today. Jennifer Conryod, welcome to the Pause to Elevate podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for joining us. And before we started, I was telling you that I feel kind of mixed because now I'm sharing my secret weapon publicly of what has helped me with my fitness, which is fluid running. But I guess the secret is out, and I'll share my journey with it as well. So I wonder for listeners, like, what led you to come up with fluid running? Because water jogging or water running has been around, but you created something different. So what led you to it?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest with you, at the time I created, I had really never heard of aqua jogging. I mean, kind of for deep water running, but so my backstory, as I call it, the beginning of fluid running, began in 2010,
Mhm.
and I was running a marathon. It was, I don't remember, to be honest with you, number of 16 or 14. I don't remember which number at the time, but I say it was the most important of all my marathons because I was doing it with
Mm.
all of my siblings. So 4 other siblings were doing it with me.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were coming in from, like I say, California to Maine. We're all in different states. And we were running it in honor of our nephew who had been diagnosed very early, like age 2 with juvenile diabetes. So we formed a charity
Mm.
team, and his name was Ben, and it was 2010. So we named our team 10-10-10 for Ben. And our goal was to raise $10,000. We had done all these things. And 6 weeks before the marathon, I tore my calf muscle. And I remember when
Oh,
it happened,
no.
I was on a run. I started hopping. I couldn't put any weight on it. Immediately went to my doctor and he's like, you can't run on this. You can't run. You have to let it rest and heal. And I was like, no, I have to run this marathon. I'll walk on my hands if I have to. So I so vividly remember all this so clearly. I remember going home to my laptop computer and I put into the Google search, how do you stay in running shape when you can't run? That was my search. Not how do you stay fit, but how do you stay in running? I need to stay in running shape, right?
Specifically.
Specifically running shape. So I started coming across several things, but these aqua jogging, deep water running kept popping up. And then this one particular article caught my eye because it was actually a training plan
Mm.
when you're injured for a marathon. And I was like, oh, ding, ding, ding in the water, right?
Yeah.
So I read the article and it was an 8-week plan. And I looked at, how long you were running in the water for each of the runs. And the longest run was only like an hour and a half or something like that. So luckily there was information to contact the author. And
Mhm.
I reached out and I said, I need to run a marathon, and I only have 6 weeks. Can you help me? And he ended up putting me
Wow.
in touch with his a coach, one of his coaches, and the coach reached out to me and said, "Trust me, Jennifer, I will get you to this marathon in the water." So all I did for the final 6 weeks leading up to the Chicago, this was for the Chicago Marathon, was to run in the deep water. And I tell people I did all of my runs, including my 20 miler. And people are like, what do you
Wow.
mean? That means because it was all heart rate based, because that's the best indicator of how hard you're working. It's really the only way you can tell if you're working
Mm.
as hard as if you were running on land is by your heart rate. So
Yes.
it was all heart rate based. And so my 20 miler, for it takes me based on my pace on land, it takes me 3 hours to run a 20 miler.
Mm.
So it was in the pool for 3 solid hours, keeping my
Oh,
heart rate
wow.
for me at the time above 140 for 3 straight hours. So, but I did
Which
it,
is quite a
and
bit.
I did all my
Yeah.
training, and I got to that start line, and I was like, so help me God if this works. And I hadn't run in 6 weeks. He let me do a tester. He's like, let me try like a 2 mile run like Thursday before. He's like, if it still feels good, then just go back in the water for the next day or two.
Oh,
Anyway, so my story is, not only did I finish that marathon and with all my siblings, we all finished it, but I qualified for the Boston Marathon,
that
not
on
having
that
run.
on that
Yeah,
race?
it was a
Wow.
hot day. It was a really hot day. It was like 85 degrees, and I hadn't run in 6 weeks. And I mean, I just couldn't. And I remember running that marathon, waiting for, there's a term for runners, we call it hitting the wall, where all of a sudden you feel like you cannot run one more step. And I'm
Mm.
like, it's coming, because here I am, I'm mile 20. I haven't run in 6 weeks. I'm going to hit the wall, and I never hit the wall. I just didn't. And I finished and crossed the finish line, and I was like, this is insane. Like, why isn't everybody doing this? And certainly, why isn't every injured runner in the whole wide world doing this? I didn't understand it, right? So, I called or emailed my coach immediately. I said, I need to do this with my life. I have to share this. So I said, how do I become certified? And it's interesting, because he said, well, there's actually no certifications here in the United States. He said, it's actually really
Oh.
not very popular. It was in the 90s, apparently, aqua jogging. He said,
Mm.
it's quite popular in Australia and Canada, believe it or not.
Mm.
So I, did a search on how to get certifications. And I actually traveled to Canada twice to get the first one was like foundations of vertical water training or something like that. And then I went back for an
Mhm.
aqua jogging certification to learn how to do it. And so I came back to Chicago, and I started working individually with people, with runners specifically, because I was like,
Mm.
I found a ninja runner. And then people are like, what are you doing? And I want to do that too. And you should start a class. And then I went to the park district and I said, could I start a deep water running class? And they said, sure. And that was the beginning. And I ran Chicago in October. I went to Canada in December and January. And I think I actually started the deep water running class before I even got back from the second certification. And so
So group class. Yeah.
a group class. Right. So it was like 3 months after I got injured, I had started a group class.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was how it all started.
I so love that story. I so love that story because it's a story of change and transformation, saying it's
Yeah.
possible. It's actually possible to do things when our mind says, no, it's not
Yeah.
possible.
Yes.
I'm injured, forget it. It's like, what if it
Right.
is possible?
Yep.
What if we do the right things, it can help us?
Yes.
And I tell you, when you share your story, it made me think of a couple of things I want to unpack.
Hmm.
One of them, you've created in this system, fluid running,
Hmm.
such excitement, such motivation, because the system comes with audio to put on
Yes.
your phone and a
Yes.
headset.
Yes.
I tried it before I discovered you, and I was bored out of my mind running in the
Yes.
water.
Yes. Yes. I was too, by the way,
And
when I was training for that
yeah,
first marathon. It was like it was like watching paint dry.
totally. I was
Yeah.
like, and how I found it was the same way, which is I actually attempted my first half marathon 2021, and on that time I pulled my Achilles. It was
Mm.
my
Ouch.
kilometer 14 was like bang, I couldn't
Yeah.
walk, and immediately I thought, how can I get back?
Yep.
And then I found, water, running,
Yeah.
but then I found you, and that truly got me back to running. So I know
Yes.
I thanked you before we began and recorded,
Yes.
because it's literally what got me back. For months, that's all I did, water running. That's all I did.
I love it.
So really, big time thank you
You're
for what you
welcome. And I
created.
love to hear,
Yeah.
we have so many success stories like you. And I always say it never gets old hearing them. That's
Yeah.
always love somebody. Never gets old.
And that's what led me to reach out to you. I thought, wait a
Yeah.
minute, I've been using this myself for
Yes.
years.
Yes.
I
And
want to
that
hear
was,
about
going back
it.
to why it was so boring. That's what
Yes.
I took the certification, like, and it was just how to run, right? But I'm like, how do I make this not so boring, right? We've got to
Yeah.
make this interesting, because I mean, if I just show people how to do it, then to your point, they throw on a flotation belt and they go and they try it by themselves, and it's so boring. So, I say that the three reasons why people generally don't try out, they often have never heard of deep water running or aqua jogging, but they don't know
Yeah.
how to do it properly. And that's what I wanted to teach. That was really important to me. I wanted to be
Mm,
mimicking land running form as close as possible. And it's
mm,
boring. It's so boring. So I'm like, how do I make this interesting? So that was my goal, was to deliver workouts that, get people running properly in proper form, and then keeping them engaged and working hard and getting so that they get the workout that I say, they get the workout
mm.
that their body deserves, that they're able to do it regardless of what's going on with their body at the time.
Mm. And I have to say, you have delivered, because
Mhm.
I haven't listened to a single audio from you that didn't leave me afterwards feeling good. Like, it's
Good.
inspiring, and you keep it engaged. You put
Yeah.
some mindset things like,
Yeah.
I have a healthy body. Let's be grateful. Like, it's positive, it's engaging. And it actually surprised me how by the end, I was like, wow, like an hour, 55 minutes is done. What?
Yeah. That's so
And,
good.
and I have to admit, it was harder than I thought. Like, I thought, 55 minutes is
Hmm.
the first time I did it, I could barely do half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this is hard.
It's so funny because it's a hard sell, this, I'll tell you, because people, they first off, you see someone doing it, doesn't look like they're doing anything, because it's just all
No.
you see is their head. And I always say it's kind of like the iceberg. All the work's happening underneath. The icebergs that, like, all, you can't see that. It's just, you just see this little head bobbing, and a lot of people. There's this kind of this. If you're not a swimmer and you're exercising in water, then, and I don't want
Mhm.
to term it that, because we have a lot of grandmas, including my grandmother,
Yeah.
that it's this kind of that's something like it's grandma's aqua aerobics, and
Mm.
it's not challenging, and but it doesn't take long to get someone in. Like, I always want to say, just give me 15 minutes of doing a fluid running workout, and it'll change your mind for sure, because it is super challenging
Yeah.
to do it right, and to work hard, and keep your heart rate where you need to keep it.
Mm. See, that element was the part that I almost gave up on this aqua jogging before I found you, because my heart rate wasn't going up,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what is the movement I need to do.
Yeah.
It was just turning my legs. But
Yeah.
then I realized, what would you say if you can help listeners kind of imagine it if they're just
Yeah.
listening?
Well,
Is how
yeah.
is it different than even swimming? Like, what's fluid running?
I mean, the only commonality between swimming
Mm.
and fluid running is that it's in a pool. And
Yeah.
it's funny, because I get that people who've known what I do and have my company for 10 years will still say, how's your swimming program going? Like, it's not swimming. So obviously swimming is, you're horizontal. First of all, you're horizontal in swimming, and swimming is majority. I'm a swimmer, actually. I'm on a master swim team. I swim about
Yeah.
3 days a week. So I love it. I just love
Mhm.
being in water. I could live in water, but
Yeah.
that's mostly arms, in your body. There's
Mm.
good. I love swimming. It's a good full body workout. But fluid
Mhm.
running is your vertical, and it's mostly your legs. I say, your legs are what, 3 feet long, and they're moving back and forth in the water.
Mhm.
And you were saying prior to trying fluid running, like, you couldn't get your heart rate. It wasn't that hard. And then I say, I feel like most people, if they do try it on their own, and if you do Google aqua jogging, deep water running, most of the videos have people, like, kind of pulling their knees up to their chest and doing more like a marching motion. And I always say, that's,
Mhm.
believe it or not, that's kind of easy, and here's why I say that, because if you're pushing up and down, the surface that you're pushing against water is the plane of your foot, right? Which is what, 12
Mhm.
inches or whatever size of your foot. You're pushing that up and down. Where with fluid running, the way we teach it is your body is long and tall, and your legs are doing, like
Mhm.
I say, it's almost like a sweepy motion back and forth right underneath you. Your leg is, again, 3, 4 feet long, moving back and forth against the resistance of the water. So that's actually, it's so much harder the way that we teach it. That, again,
Yeah.
that back forth motion, water's 800 times denser there. It's so much more challenging than the way most people um, think of it, which is that kind of that stompy motion. And so that's why it's
Mm.
hard to get your heart rate up, because that motion's just not that hard to do, to be honest with you. So
Right. So you can
yeah,
just be floating even with a
yeah,
flotation device and
yep,
be, I felt like a duck when I began,
yeah,
like just like tick, 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 my
Yeah.
feet moving a little bit, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But so you're saying water is 800 times.
Hmm.
Can you say a little more about that and how that affects us, like being in water and
Oh,
running in
there's
water?
so I don't know. We need 3 hours to talk about. There's so much well to being in water, but yeah, in terms of there's so many. Let me just talk about some of the benefits, which is what
Yes.
because when I went and got certified and I learned so much about water, I was like, wow, this is incredible. There's so much more to it than I thought. It was
Mm,
just a good workout that got your heart rate up and you could do when you're injured. I mean, that's kind of when I decided to go get certified. That's what I thought. But I learned so much more and it's really cool. So, first of all, yes,
mm,
water is 800 times denser than air. So, when you are running and the way we teach it with fluid running, your body is
mm.
vertical. And the cues, which you probably heard, is head high, chin in, shoulders back, belly to spine, legs right underneath you. Give me that good sweepy motion. So when you're running in that vertical position and your legs are moving back and forth, obviously your legs are getting this great workout, right? And again, with the
Mhm.
water being so much denser than air, it's so much harder. Sometimes in the workout, to say it's almost like you're running through quicksand or jello or
Yeah.
something. It's harder. And to my athletes, I'll say it's almost like altitude training. When you're
Yeah.
out there and you're running through that density of that water, and I've heard this from so many runners that after they do a fluid running workout, then they go to run on land. They're like, oh my God, it was so easy. And I felt so
Right.
light and springy. I'm like, well, yeah, because your legs are running through air now. And your arms too. Your arms, the way we teach it is those arms are 90-degree angle swinging back and forth. And so your
Mm.
arms are getting an arm workout, right? So your arms are workout to stay in the upright position. Because I always say in the beginning of our live classes, like everyone just relax. If you just completely relax your body, you would kind of like flop forward, right? But the
Yeah.
way we teach it, head high, chin in, shoulders back, engage that belly. Your whole core is engaged the whole time you're working, and not just like tummy core. Your core is kind of your whole midsection, but your upper
Mhm.
body stabilizer muscles that keep you in good posture and support your spine, and your whole core is engaged. So that's all the like cool what's happening physiologically in terms of
Mhm.
strength and so forth. But here's actually one of the really cool parts is that hydrostatic pressure, which is that water pressure on your
Mhm.
body, is all around you. It's a 360 pressure on your body. So actually, it's almost like you're getting a 360 workout because it's hitting you from all angles.
Yes.
But that water pressure, and I said, think of yourself as like a tube of toothpaste in the water. That water pressure is like pushing on your lower limbs, right? So, which is
Mm.
amazing if you do have a lower limb injury, which is a large amount of our clients have lower limb injuries. It's kind of compression, right? Compression. So it's pushing all that blood from your on your lower extremities, and it's actually pushing more blood up to your heart, which is so fascinating. There's so much information on
Oh.
um, stroke volume and so forth. It's like a crazy amount, like 3 times as much blood is pumping out of your heart, your heart per beat, um, than as on land. So I always use, and
Wow. That's
I
quite
might
a
have,
bit more.
that statistic wrong. Let me see if I fact check that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a great. It's so much more blood is being pumped out per beat than when you're running on land, right? So I always give this. So here's the other thing. Sometimes people go try it and they're like, I couldn't really get my heart rate on. I'm like, well, two things. You might not have been working hard enough or
Yeah.
doing it properly. But I use this analogy when you're running or working out on land, your heartbeat is going boom, 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 right? So now you're in
Mhm.
the water at the same intensity. You're working just as hard, whatever, say 80% effort or something. And your heart is going boom, boom, but
Yeah.
it just physically can't pump the blood out fast enough. Okay. So that doesn't mean you're not working as hard. It just
Mm.
means your heart can't pump it out as fast. So I always tell people in the workouts, we do these heart rate checks throughout, that you add 10 to 15 beats to whatever you're getting, right? And your
Mhm.
smartwatch isn't going to know that. All your smartwatch is just going to know that your heart's beating at 120 beats per minute, but you're actually working at an exertion level of more like 130. And then in the higher
Yes.
zones, if you're say 140 or say 150, for example, you actually add 15 beats because it's more
Mhm.
pronounced then. Even more blood is going, the heart is having a harder time pumping it all out. So if you're seeing 150 on your smartwatch, your heart rate is more likely 165, or that would be
Right.
like the equation. So that part is just, I think that's so fascinating. And it's actually considered like the perfect cardiac combination, I've heard doctors say, because you're pumping out
Mm.
more blood and less beats per minute, but it also really strengthens your heart. We've got some amazing testimonials of people that had heart conditions and did fluid running, and their cardiologist is like, what have you been doing? Your heart's fantastic. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly thank you for stopping by and watching this content. It truly means the world to me that you're interested in creating positive change. I also want to invite you to join our amazing community. I have free events online about mindfulness, mindfulness-based stress reduction, laughter, as well as retreats that you can do from the comfort of your own home. And are you ready for this? Self-paced program that you can do about mindfulness and stress reduction. So you can join the newsletter below to stay up to date on all these goodies. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and press that button. It really helps me to keep this content going and reach out to more guests. Thank you so much again, and may you continue enjoying watching this episode. That's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I really love, the checking the pulse, and you say that in the audio.
Yeah.
And it has really helped me even think when I do fluid running, okay, how much exertion am I putting?
Yeah.
Is it 80%? And then we check. You often do that throughout the audio. Let's check.
Well,
Where are you at? Where are you at? And that was an eye opener, because when I began, I was like, well, how come mine is not as high? And I realized I wasn't working as hard
yes.
because I
Yeah.
didn't have I was like, normally I run like this, but my exertion wasn't as high in the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
So that was really for me a game changer. Like, you do this throughout the audios. Check. Where is it
Yeah.
at? Where is it at? And you can run as fast as you want,
Mhm.
as hard as you want, or as
Yeah.
slow as you want. And I love that. Like,
Yeah.
some days, no, I'm needing to go lower. Some
Yep.
days, today's a push day.
Yeah.
And I love
And
that.
that's why I do it, because it's here's the thing, it's actually it's very easy to not work hard. I say that you're in the water, you've got a flotation belt around your waist, it's easy to, here's the thing, when you're running on land, like, you have to go from point A to point B, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard unless you're walking. If you're if you're running, you're automatically, even if you're jogging outside, you're automatically at probably a 60 to 70% effort level, right? To keep your body moving in the running motion, right? But in the water, you got this flotation belt. You can kind of like,
Yeah, you can just.
you just take it easy. And that's why I'm constantly doing those heart rate checks. And I learned that from myself. I wear a smartwatch, but I find I'm like, oh boy, 120, pick it up. So I see myself how easy it is to to slow down where you're not in that aerobic zone. So that's why I'm constantly having people check. 'Cause it's very easy. It's very easy to fall out of zone. And that's the whole intention of the fluid running, is to keep everyone at least at their kind of lower to moderate zones. Then if you try some of the harder ones, there's ones where level 3s where we push you a lot more. But like I say in the workouts, and like you just said, sometimes I'll say, sometimes your 80% today is very different than your 80% yesterday, or you don't have 80% to give today. You only got 60% to give today, and everyone is different. So,
and your body's different. And we're mentioning levels. So in your system, you have level 1, 2, and 3, and you can get audios based on that. So and when you're saying this, one of my favorite ones is heartbeat.
yes.
I love that one. That's
Yes.
heartbeat. And by the way, I mentioned earlier about a bonus for the listeners, and we'll put it in the show notes as well. So you can get an audio if you get the system and you want to try the system out.
Yeah.
You can get a free audio by just putting Dr. Kasim as a code, and I'll put the spelling of that below. So thank you, by the way, for offering this to our listeners, a free audio when they get the system.
Yep. An extra workout. So you get
an extra, yeah.
Yeah. You get a package of them when you order the system, but this gives you an extra free one to choose, because we have different kinds. We got level 1, level 2, level 3. We have some that are kind of more specific for a runner, where we're doing a ton of running. And I should point that out, that fluid running, while it's entitled fluid running, as you know, the workouts mix in a lot of other movements, and it's interesting. Yeah. And then again, that also, what I discovered doing it my own, is that whole boredom factor, right? By mixing these different movements, it keeps it interesting. But not only that, some of those movements are a lot harder than running. You do cross country with force. Oh my gosh. So cross country, for the listeners, is, like imagining kind of mimicking cross country skiing, right? So, like you got poles or whatever. So it's your arms are extended long by your side, and your legs are straight. I would say straight, not locked, because I don't want hyperextension. And your feet are flexed. And so you're moving these long, straight legs back and forth through that water, and your arms are down by your side. I mean, my gosh, that's so challenging. And then it just makes it interesting. And then and usually it spikes your heart rate, and then it almost feels good to go back to a run after a movement like that. And then sometimes we break down the run stride and have you just run with your arms, and then run with just your legs, and put it all together. And then we have a couple other movements deviations of like cross country, for example, like we call it cross runner, where you run with your arms and your legs are in cross country, or I think it's cross sprint, where your arms are in that cross country motion, arms, and you're sprinting. But all of them, in all of the
Yeah.
movements, again, they keep it challenging, they keep you engaged, because that was the thing. I'm like, I got to get people to want to do this, and it is even to just run the entire time can be really super boring, So, although even that, I try, knowing that I'm going to have a lot of runners, try to keep that engaging. I have a couple. I've got like a guided 10K where I'm, cheering you on, and here comes, you see mile two,
Yes.
come on,
Yes.
hang in there, and cowbells and quotes, and what does that sign say? Some, trying to keep
Yes.
people engaged, So
You know what I find so interesting? Because it's so engaging. Even when I listen to the same audio again, I find it exciting. Like,
that's good to hear.
and I find, sometimes, like, what do I feel like? I feel, one of them is called, what is it? Riptide,
You're tired. Yeah,
The Long Way Home. Like,
yeah,
there's different ones.
yeah,
And for me, I've listened to it so many times, but not a single time I went back to it. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what's coming.
yeah,
I don't know. There's something so
yeah.
like you've maintained high energy in there, as if like literally you're right there in the pool with us. So I
It's
just
funny
want to
though.
say, like, really hats off to you for the way you've recorded it, you delivered it, because it really lands. Like for
Thank
me,
you.
it continues to land every time. So I just want to
That's
say
good.
that.
I've
So,
heard have heard people say, like, it's almost like, I'm exactly when I'm getting tired, because you say you might be getting tired. Pull those shoulders back.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well,
And it,
I've done it enough to know this is about the time people start to get tired in the workout. So, yeah,
yeah, or start zoning out. Like you
yes, or zoning
somehow
out.
you keep, all of your cues keeps us returning to the present moment
Yeah,
here. Oh,
yeah,
what is she saying? Oh,
yeah,
what are we doing? Oh,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it
That's
invites me
good.
back.
Well, this is kind of funny, is that, believe it or not, when I go to do fluid running, I listen to my own self, which is I remember the first time I did, I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Like, I've got me, Coach Jen, in my ear. But I had tried to go run on my own and just do my own thing. And same thing. It was boring, and I was falling out of heart rate, and it was a pain to have to keep checking the clock. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So I put it on, and now it's funny. I listen to myself, which is really bizarre, but I always say she keeps me motivated, and she keeps
Yeah,
me,
she does a great job.
keeps me working hard. And sometimes I'll be, darn it, can't believe she's making us do that. And it's not just me. There's other coaches now too. I don't know if you tried some of the other workouts with some of the
Yes, yeah.
instructors, but I
There's
was
a,
I
there's
was it
another
for a
Jen.
long time. Yeah, Coach Jen, and we've got Maria and Rachel. We've got new. So for a while, it was only me in the
Yeah,
beginning. So there's a lot of me, because it just started with just me, and then I had to convince my other instructors that teach the live classes here to get in that
to
studio,
do
and
more. Yeah.
to be brave and get in the studio, which is always nerve wracking. So, but they're great too.
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
No, but the other audios are great too. Jen, the other Jen, I don't know her
yeah,
last name,
Gen
but
G. We call her Gen
the
G.
Gen
Yeah,
G,
she's
she's
awesome.
really, that one was about a lot of sprints, and I really
Yeah,
love all the sprints and the,
good.
leaning forward as a reward, like
Yeah,
going
yeah,
up, like there's, yeah, so a lot of variety. So I wonder, I want to ask you about this. So besides runners, and I know again, help me personally, can you share some stories of how fluid running has helped people with chronic conditions or challenges, even if they don't consider themselves an athlete? How has
yeah,
fluid running helped in recovery?
yeah. So it's interesting. When I started this, my backstory, I was a runner, and I thought, oh, this is for injured runners and so forth. And I'll be honest with you, and we've got over 10,000 customers of people users. I don't know exactly that number. That was 10,000 a while ago, but I would say 90% are not runners, to be honest with you. They're not runners. They're
Mm,
people that are coming to us because they want to be fit, they want to exercise, but darn it, something is stopping them. They try to exercise, and it
mm,
hurts, whether it's just chronic pain of some sort, whether it's chronic foot pain or chronic knee pain or chronic, I mean, we get a lot of that: foot,
yeah.
knee, hip, back. Oh, and I want to share that too. I had to have
Mm,
cervical surgery after I started fluid running. It was in 2013, I think. Like
mhm.
emergency spine surgery. And
Oh
the
wow.
leading up onto that, I was in the most, I've got a high pain tolerance. I probably waited too long, but I've got some of the highest pain tolerance, but I was in such excruciating pain, nerve pain leading up into that surgery. And I tell people, the only time I was not in pain was when I was in the pool fluid running. And that's the other thing that
Yeah.
is so cool about being in the water. And the reason why, when you're in the water, you're essentially floating, right? So there's zero gravity.
Mm.
On land, I always say you've got gravity and ground force kind of squashing your joints, right? But in the water, they're just your joints are like floating, right? There's zero pressure. I remember not wanting to get out of the pool because even when I was laying in bed, everything hurt. No, there wasn't a position I could get in
Mm.
that didn't cause me excruciating pain. Again, I had to have the surgery, but when I was in that water, zero pressure. So anyone that has any kind of joint pain, just picture that you're
Mm.
floating joints. So we get a ton of people with just pain
Yeah.
that have tried, and sometimes depending on what the injury or the chronic pain is, even walking hurts. Forget about
Yeah.
elliptical or
Yes.
biking or things like that. It hurts too much. Gosh, we have so many success stories. We actually just did a fundraiser a couple weeks ago for a woman who has ALS,
Mm.
and she is wheelchair bound. She can no longer walk, but it's the craziest thing. And we showed the video. She gets in the pool. She's like, I don't know. She's like, the water's magic. She's still able to get in and run in the water. She's like, I don't understand what's happening. Her story is wonderful. But then we just had a guy, he is a runner, granted, he just ran the Chicago Marathon, and he had to have a below knee amputation
Mm.
a couple years ago. And he did a great majority of his training in the water because he
Wow.
would take his lower limb blade off and he could still, he had one full leg and one half leg. And he said it was fluid running that was able to get him to successfully run this marathon because he was able to
Oh,
take all the
wow.
pounding off. He's an amputee. We've a lot of breast cancer survivors that they're just in pain. Their body just hurts, and fluid running just
Mm.
feels so good. Lots of lymphedema, people who have the swelling in their lower
Mm.
legs. And I
Oh,
mentioned that,
yeah.
that hydrostatic pressure is so beautiful for that. And then we've had people with lymphedema say they don't have to wear their compression garments in the pool because it is like compression, right? So they're getting like the
Ah,
compression,
yeah.
but now they've got compression along with movement, like their lower legs are moving back and forth, and that's kicking up all that circulation. And we've had
Mm.
people with lymphedema say they get out and their swelling is so much less in the pool. So a lot of lymphedema, breast cancer. I could go on and on about all the different conditions of people with pain, illnesses. Unless you have such a disability that you're just unable to get in the pool,
Mm.
just about anybody can do this. We have the live classes here in Chicago, and then we have the app-based system that anybody could do just about anywhere.
Yes.
But we have a senior class, and we've got 85-year-olds that come on a weekly basis to do it.
Mm.
So we have teenagers, and so it's really,
For all
and
ages,
that's what we
yeah.
want it to be. It's for everybody, anybody. And one of the things, one of our lines is you could have an Olympic athlete in the pool next to his grandma, and they're both doing fluid running and getting the exact same workout that they need.
Yeah.
They're both getting like an awesome workout for their body because
Yeah.
it's as hard or as easy as you want to make it. Granted, we have workouts where we're pushing you, and there's sometimes we're saying sprint or give me 100% or 90%, but it's all up to you.
Yes.
Good luck trying to sprint all out effort for 10 minutes. I don't even think you could do it. I can barely do it for like a minute, like all
Yeah.
out sprint, right? I don't know if you tried it. So my point is, it's just a matter of how hard you work. And we get people that have really bad chronic conditions, and for them,
Mm.
just actually, it's cute. My mother doesn't, but she's 90 years old. She calls it fluid strolling, where she gets in and she puts her belt on, and she was very slowly, but yay, good for her. She does it every day, and she's in great shape. She's not sprinting, she's not getting her heart rate to
Mm.
160, but she's moving.
Yes,
And
which
again,
is so important.
unless you have a disability that literally you are physically unable to get in the pool, you can do. We've
Mm.
had people lose over 100 pounds. We've had people that needed to lose. We just put a success story of a woman who was obese her whole life. Nothing else worked, and she needed desperately to have knee surgery because of
Mm.
gymnastics when she was a youth. She's been in pain her whole adult life. But same thing. She's like, her doctor says you have to lose this weight, and she says, you tell me, how do I lose weight when it hurts to walk?
Yeah,
How do
of
you lose
course.
weight? Because that to lose weight, you got to eat healthy and exercise. You kind of need to do both.
Need both, yeah.
And then she discovered fluid running, lost 80 pounds, was able to have the knee surgery. So I know I'm forgetting because I know we have all sorts of stories. We have a success story segment of our website where people share their success stories. But yeah, if you want a good workout and you want your body to be strong and healthy and you want to get your heart rate up, and you can do this. You really can do this,
Yes, it's really doable.
Yeah.
And, I want to also emphasize fun. Like, I look forward to it. I have to
Yeah.
say, I haven't done a fluid running
Yeah.
every time. I'm leaving feeling good.
That's
Like
so good.
there's something about, there's music,
Yeah.
your voice, the cues, being in water, and I guess
Yes.
that's the other thing. Like being in water is soothing to the nervous system.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Actually, if you were to do a
Yeah.
search on the scientific benefits for mental health and water, there's studies that say just staring at water actually reduces your cortisol levels, just staring at it, but let alone
Mm,
being in it. And I look it up. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, they say we're born in water, right? In the mother's womb.
right.
And yeah, that's, I think water's magical. I really do. And so there
Yeah.
is something, but even like if you think about it, memories of childhood in water is like you're at a pool, right? You're playing,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
bathtub. When you're in a bathtub when you're a little kid with your rubber duckies or playing in a pool, like it's like it is a fun. Water's fun. The way you move your body in water, the ability
Yeah.
is fun, right? You just can't
Yes.
do that on land the older you get. So yeah.
Yeah. And what I also love is you give people options as well. So we've been talking about the deep water, but I know
Mhm.
you also have shallow water as well.
Yes.
So can
Yes.
you describe that for folks so they know, like someone may go, "Oh, I'm not comfortable going in deep water, even with
Right.
a floating
Yeah,
device."
and
Um,
we don't wanna tell people that aren't comfortable in the deep water,
right.
because it's interesting, it's always tricky because we get, like, comments on Facebook saying, "Do I need to be a swimmer to do this?" And I'm always like, "Oh, it's like a fine line because no,
Right.
you don't have to be a swimmer," meaning somebody that, like, swims laps, you don't have to be that, you don't even have to know how to do freestyle, but we want you to be, like, able to be safe, like,
Yeah.
in the deep water, right? Just
Yeah.
because
With a
with the
flotation.
flotation belt,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But at any rate, yeah. So we it started as deep water, obviously, and that's all we had for about the first, oh gosh, I guess about 3 years of the app. The app's only maybe 4 or 5 years old now. Any rate, but then people started reaching out saying, I don't have access to a deep water pool. And we found out a lot of
Mm,
people don't. Um, Health clubs, a lot of health club chains especially don't have deep water pools.
yeah. Yeah.
People wanted to do it on vacation because they love it. We've got addicts, we've got complete addicts, fluid running addicts. And then they couldn't do it on vacation because most like hotel pools, resorts, picture them, they're shallow, right? So we created a shallow water program, and I really like it. I was kind of hesitant at first because I just love the deep water program so
Yeah.
much, but um, I almost think they're harder, to be honest with you. And I thought they would be easier for some reason. I've incorporated some strength work in the shallow water program as well, where we'll start on the side of the pool and do like
Mhm.
kind of like tricep dips, or just the side of the pool like push ups, and some at the end we end with core work with doing like V ups and things like that. So we add that,
Mhm.
which people really like to it. Um, but no, so obviously you're touching on the bottom of the pool, and I was able to translate most of the movements from the deep water. Um, the cross country still works in the shallow end, and cross sprint and cross runner, and even the running ups. And I think about the only one that didn't work is we do flutter kick, a vertical flutter kick in
Yes.
the deep water. And that obviously didn't work in the shallow, but I was kind of surprised because I was like, how do I do a shallow water workout? And then I went and practiced a little bit, and I'm like, no, it's really the same thing. I was able to translate like I said, most of the movements, and it's the same thing. It's the cueing, making sure they're holding their body in proper position, and motivating, and heart rate checks,
Yeah.
and all the same things. So it's a good workout. I was surprised. It's a shockingly good workout, the shallow. And again, we
Totally.
add some of that strength work that people really like as well.
The options is which I really appreciate, because same thing for me. My preference actually is the deep. I just fell in love with the deep
Yeah.
water myself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I tried when I first got the system, when I picked the audios, I only picked the deep. And then more recently is the shallow. And I tried it, and it was quite a workout. Like it also surprised me. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
nice change.
Yeah.
And I just need to find a better shallow pool because the
Okay.
pool I'm at, I'm 6'3".
Okay. Oh,
So
you're tall.
the
Yeah.
shallow, it comes to my belly
Oh, right.
button. Do
No,
you know
that
what I mean?
doesn't
Like
work. Right. Right.
I'm basically not in the water.
No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. You would probably need closer to 5 feet.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. So
yeah. But the option is there. This is the
yeah.
thing that I just want to mention. People can do shallow or deep, and they can
Yeah.
choose from
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Couple other things I'm really curious about, which is just getting into mindset.
Yeah.
Because clearly you're someone who has pursued excellence in terms of completing, you're a finisher of Ironman and 18 Boston qualifiers. Like that's not the average person. Do you know what I mean? Like, what really, I'm curious if we go into the mindset that if we sneak peek into your mind. What led you to do all this running and all these accomplishments in running? What drives you?
Well, it's interesting because it's different now than it was then.
Mm.
I actually started this all because of a real tough time in my life. I became unexpectedly a single mom of a 12-month-old, 2-year-old, and 4-year-old.
Mm.
That was a really hard time in my life. And
Yeah.
I remember saying, I was very aware, and I'm always like, I'm grateful. I always call it like a God wink or a God tap. I was like, I knew I needed something. I needed I
Mm.
remember saying, you need a positive focus, Jen, you need a positive focus. I don't know what it is, but I was felt like I was going to lose my mind, right. With these 3 little kids and by myself. And, a brochure came out from the YMCA and it was intro to triathlon training. And I had never run. I had never biked. I swam a couple years in high school, but I remember it just spoke to me. And I remember like seeing that darn brochure. And of course they had daycare for kids, where I could put my kids. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I'm going to sign up for that. Right. So we rode on the bikes at the gym, little spin bikes,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah,
trained to
yeah.
run. Obviously we got in the pool. There's a pool. And then we ran on the treadmill. The group was, I don't know, was it like, I don't know, but it was, and that's how it started. So it started as for my mental health. And I remember I
Mm.
was swimming. I used to have to empty my goggles every lap because I was crying so hard. That's where I was at my life. It was a tough time, but
Yeah,
it was like my therapy. And for a long
yeah.
time, it was my therapy. And then it was just interesting. Like things just, gosh, it's crazy the way things just morph. Like, I started doing these little sprint triathlons and then I did a triathlon. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. That's weird. Like I was the fastest in the run more than the swim or the bike. And then I'm like, and then I'm like, well, maybe I'll try this. And it was just kind of a funny thing. Like I was one of those people who says I'm not a runner. God did not make me to run. My hips don't work. So I was one of those, I never ran. I hated when I'd run run the mile in high school or whatever. So then I don't know, just like one thing led to another. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll run a marathon. And I qualified for Boston on my second marathon. Then I was like, oh, maybe I'm a good runner. And then I just fell in love with it. The everything about it. I did Boston this year, 2024, and I did a triathlon and I did a 5K swim. And I'm like, and sometimes I'll say, why do you keep doing it? And I have two answers why I keep doing it. One is because I can. First of all, I
Yeah.
can. I'm not 30, obviously.
Mm.
And the fact that I still can. And then I love the whole process of it. It's just so fun. It's fun. I love the
Mm.
process. I love having a goal. I love the training. I love the taper. I love the afterglow. It's just fun. I don't know. I just, and when I train for marathons, there's a training group that I run with. So you run with all these
Yeah.
awesome people. And so for me, honestly, now I just love it. I like when I
Mm.
don't have it. I have said, what are you going to do when you're actually too old to do this? I don't know. Um,
Oh, you'll find something.
but I will add, and the only way I did Boston this year, but I only ran 2 land runs a week. The rest was in the
Mm.
pool. And
Amazing.
that's why I'm able. That's the other reason why I'm able. I'm 58 years old. That's why I'm able to
Mm.
do it, is because I do so much of the training in the water.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't remember how many marathons, 2, no more than 3 on land. Everything else is in the water. Sometimes I do half and halves.
Wow.
Like I'll do, like if I have a 20 miler, I'll do like the first 10 and I'll go straight, like I'll park at my pool. I'll go run 10 miles, do the quickest change I possibly can, and then go in the pool and run for another hour and a
And
half
you
or whatever it
continue.
is.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
instead of doing 20 miles of pounding on my body. So that's a huge reason why I'm able to keep doing
Yeah.
the running, is because so much of it's in the pool. And a lot of people my age are like, so many people like, I wish I could, but my knees are killing me. I'm like, yeah, well, try running in the pool.
Yes, you don't have to do all of it on land.
Yeah.
You're giving me some ideas too because I've gotten hooked on running. It's actually began since COVID. I do other sports, but COVID
Yeah.
happened, and I've always run maybe a couple of Ks, but not more. Then I thought, oh, what if I do 5K?
Yeah.
Oh, what if I do 10K? And
That's
finally,
how it
when
starts.
exactly slowly, and then it began with just walking,
Yep.
running, walking, running. But I wonder, you're giving me ideas to go from half to full because I've done so far 4 halves.
Congratulations.
Yes, I just finished one couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, ooh,
Congratulations.
maybe a full is around the corner, but it feels so much bigger than half.
Yes. Right. Right.
What's a mindset that could help with that transition? What helped you to go from half to full?
Ah, well, I just loved it so much. So then I guess, I mean, clearly I'm a person I think that likes to have goals. So after I did the half, it's like, well, I did the half. Maybe I could do the full. But I will tell you, just for you personally, you absolutely could do a full. And if you were at all worried about, how your body would hold up, even putting even one of the runs a week is going to decrease your pounding by what? Let's say if you do 5 days a week of 20% or whatever that
Yes.
number is, one. Do
Yes.
the math on like the decrease in pounding if you replace one run in the water, two
Yes.
runs in the water. Now you're looking at almost 50% or whatever it is, 2, 3 runs, depending on how much you train.
Yeah.
Um, you absolutely could do it. As could, I
Oh.
think, most people could do it. When you go out
Yes.
on those, I know you see it too when you're on those half marathons. I'm just in awe of the people that are running these marathons. People that
Yeah.
they're practically limping, or they're, you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
I
and
just,
you're passing me. How is that possible?
how
So
does that work?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
so really, it's about setting a goal, working towards it, making adjustments, and
yeah,
here is fluid running that can help. And I'm gonna include that
yeah.
as I transition to full. I don't know when, but
Good.
soon I'm gonna do
Well,
another half or two, and then go from there.
I'd be happy to
But
help you out with that.
oh, would love that. Would love that. I just want to go back to your story, and a quote comes to my mind, which is a quote I heard when I was a teen that helped me in my life, which was Bruce Lee, martial artist who passed
Mm,
a long time ago. And he said, turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone. Turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone.
yeah.
And it feels to me like that's what you've done with your life. When
Yes.
you even started with triathlons,
Mm-hmm.
here was a big stumbling block and
Mm-hmm.
challenge.
Yeah.
But you actually chose to create something,
Yeah.
started exercise. You could have not started exercise,
Yeah.
you could have not done this triathlon.
Yes.
You could have just you know felt like you're stuck and do nothing, but you did something,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that's really important.
Yeah.
You took charge.
It's funny. My kids call me solution. They used to call me solution mom. I'm one of those people like I kind of refuse to take. There's not a solution to this. Like I actually, it's
Mm,
almost like a game. I'll be like, there's got to be an answer. There's got to be a way to figure this out. So yeah, I do live my life like that. I don't. It's not that I don't take no, but I just always believe that there's a way. There's a way. There's
yeah.
an answer. And sometimes you gotta be creative. You gotta think outside of the box. You gotta let it come to you sometimes.
Mm,
But yeah, and again, I give I give credit to the big guy, but sometimes ideas just come to me. Like even
yeah.
like that. Like, do you need to do this triathlon training course in my life? I mean, so much came out of that. I mean, I ended up fluid running came from that, and I ultimately met my
Yeah.
husband on. I ultimately met my husband on that swim team that I joined. I mean,
Oh,
it's crazy. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So many neat things came out of that. My whole life changed. My whole trajectory of my life changed from all of that. So much. I mean, all of it for the better. I was actually in fast food marketing in my prior life. I was a marketing executive in
Wow.
I mean, McDonald's and Kentucky Fried, these fast food marketing. So it was just a
Yeah.
whole complete change that came from that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I still do that. I just find myself just like, there's got to be a solution to this. There's got to be a solution to this. So it's almost like a
Mm.
game with me, which is kind of fun trying to figure out.
See, that's a mindset of excellence. Like
Okay.
it's like, how can I find a solution? Not is there a solution? It's like,
Yeah,
how can I find it?
yeah,
And even as you're saying it, I can sense the curiosity,
yeah,
the wonder, the being open to, like,
yeah,
let's see. And how could you have ever imagined that you saying yes to some flyer
yeah.
about triathlon
Right,
training that
right.
led you to so many changes? So I guess for listeners to keep in mind, you never know what a positive action can lead you
Yeah,
to. You
yes,
never know.
yeah,
Like you didn't do it because you knew no one came and guaranteed you,
yeah,
but you took an action and
yes, yes,
so much came out of it.
yes.
Yeah. So is that the mindset also for creating fluid running? Because I'm sure you faced obstacle on a business front.
Oh, we've had lots of obstacles.
Yes.
Lots of, yeah, and that's one of you just have to keep keep getting back on that horse. You fall off and you get back, or you try something different. I love that quote. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sail. And like we've made so many pivots, and it's not just me, by the way. I have partners
Mhm.
now too. Actually,
Yes.
my business partner Mike, who you met, it was his idea to take my group class concept way back when and create this app based system, which is
Oh,
just phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, and it's frustrating at times sometimes because like I created this workout. I'm like, this is like the greatest workout in the whole wide world. And not because I created it, only because I see the benefits. And I hear I get at least an email a week for 13 years now, 14 years, saying,
Wow.
fluid running has changed, or even people have told me it has saved their life. I've had
Yeah.
people say, this has literally
Yeah.
saved my life. I was diabetic. I was on all these medications. I was this, I was obese. I was that. I couldn't, now I'm this. And, so I would hear this day in, day out, like this is the greatest thing. But, trying to get it to people to try it and use it has been challenging. And we've had different like business models. Well, that didn't work. All right, well, let's try
Yeah.
this.
Right.
That didn't work. And then then creating the app, which was brilliant because that was we were able
Yeah.
to reach so many more people with that. But yeah, lots of boy. I'll tell you what, if you let a failure stop you, you wouldn't get very far. That's for sure. That's for sure. You just got
Yeah.
to learn from them. I heard such a great quote somebody yesterday. It was just yesterday. It was not
Mm.
only where is failure not a bad thing, it's like essential
Yeah.
for growth. You have to
Yes.
fail. How do you grow if you don't fail, right? And then you just got to realize it's okay. There's not a business person out there that hasn't failed multiple
Hmm.
times. There's not a human
It's
being
so
out there that hasn't.
yeah.
We all fail, right? So it's just
Yeah.
part of life. Yeah.
It's funny you say that. In my previous world, before I got into counseling and psychology and pursued my master's degree, I was in business and
Okay.
sales.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helped me so much in terms of a mindset of working with failure,
Yeah.
because something that it's still with me is, the more I hear no's, the more I'm failing, the closer I am to a yes.
Yes. I
Right.
love
So, so,
that. I
so it
love
just,
that
it just
quote.
means like I'm
Yeah.
getting closer.
Yep.
I'm just getting closer. I got to figure, okay, I'm just, because it's so, discouraging when we hear no and
Mhm.
rejection.
Mhm.
But there's something about success that requires us to allow space for rejection, for
Yes.
setbacks
Yep.
on the business, on the personal, and also in sports, just like your life, right?
Yes.
Like setbacks will happen.
Yep.
It's not,
Absolutely.
are they going to happen? Is
Yes.
they will happen, but what are we going to do?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
answer? How do we fix this? How do we get out of this? How do we make it
Mm.
better? So
So see, that's a gift to listeners. Could you maybe for all of us to do what you do, which is, what is the solution? Let's
yes.
find out. Like, be curious.
Yes.
Be curious. Be curious
Yes.
about the solution. Yeah.
Well, and then, back to when starting all of this back in my post, when my in the beginning of me becoming a single mom, I actually started a divorce support group. I did,
Mm.
a pro bono kind of a thing, as giving back after I kind of survived the first couple of years. And I would always say, that line, that the definition of insanity, doing the
Yeah.
same things, but expecting different results, So I would say it was mostly women in this group. I'm like, if you're continuing to live your life like you're, just a married person and you're not leaving your house and you're staying home,
Yeah.
it's not going to change. You got to
No.
change. You got to change for things to change, and it's
Yeah.
hard sometimes, but what's the outcome otherwise? Just the status quo. And if you're not happy, then the status quo is not good. Staying the
Right.
same course is not going to make you happy.
So change is hard, but the alternative of not being willing to try something different has even costlier. Like,
Right.
just,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
well said.
Yes.
Mm. So, this has been so enjoyable, this conversation with you. And there's just a couple more things I want to ask you about
Absolutely.
before we wrap up, which is to go back to the experience of being an Ironman finisher.
Yes.
So, for those who are not as familiar, so an Ironman is, what does that involve? And
It
what was it
is.
like
Of
training
course,
for
I'm
that?
going to talk in miles instead of kilometers because the United States is
Sure.
the only
Yes.
country in
And
the
I'll
world
try
that
to
still.
convert somehow to kilometers. Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrible. So it is a 2.5 mile swim in open water.
So
And then,
maybe 3 to 4K. So
thank you.
just,
I appreciate
yeah,
the
yeah,
conversions
yeah.
there. Yes. And then it's a 113-mile bike.
So that's about 170 kilometers or something like that,
Yeah.
or close to an 80. Okay.
And then a full marathon at the end.
Which is 42 kilometers.
Yeah.
That's a lot in one day.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But, my husband had done one prior and I remember cheering him on. And I was like, hard, never, 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 never in my life would I ever. I was so like, never. And I had done lots of marathons at that point. I think I had done maybe some half marathon or Ironman rather. Never. And so, it's funny, that's just actually spiking a memory. So that's funny. That's what got me to do it. So I was signed up for this half Ironman, and I
Yes.
trained so well. I was ready to kill it. I was in such great shape. And the week before, I got injured in a odd injury where somebody kicked my toenail and it went straight up in the air. And
Ooh.
I couldn't, yeah, and I had to have it. I couldn't do the half Ironman. And I remember I was so frustrated by that. I couldn't do it. I was like, that's it. I'm signed up for the Ironman. Like I was so frustrated. Like, well, I said to myself, what am I going to do with this? Like all this like pent up. I was so angry and frustrated that I'd worked so hard for this half Ironman that I couldn't do. And then right down there, I signed up. I just did it. I just signed up for the
That's a
Ironman.
jump.
Yeah, it was a jump. So, but I always, well,
Mm.
if anyone's out there who wants to try the Ironman, it's the training. The race itself is glorious. If you have trained well, honestly, it was the most fun days of my life that doing that Ironman. My whole family was there. My 3 boys were there. My husband was there. My friends were there.
Wow.
But that training, whoa,
That's
training's
a
tough.
lot of training hours.
It's
Like
a lot of
how,
tough training.
how many just roughly?
It's like
Like,
a full-time job, but you have to find out how to
wow.
do it at crazy hours, first thing in the morning and, or
Wow.
whatever. So, yeah, there's a couple weeks. I always say I cried. I did several times in training towards the end. But
That's
then the day of the
incredible.
marathon, the Ironman, I was all smiles, just high fives.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so fun. Yeah. Yeah. So,
But you see, it's back to that mindset when like finding a solution, finding a
yeah.
way. So
Yeah.
even something that seems insurmountable, like for
Yeah.
me right now,
Yeah.
Ironman was like, oh, like that's
Yeah.
another planet for me.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Like you took the steps
Yeah.
and you got curious.
Yeah.
How can you make it work?
Yeah.
Which we can
Well, and
apply to
I
anything.
was,
Like,
yeah, I had the little tiny kids then, and I remember taking them. I would take them up to the high school track, and I give them a soccer ball and their sippy cups and things like that, and they'd watch mom running around that track to do my running training. You figure it out. You figure it out. So yeah,
Well, your enthusiasm about life, the way you've approached it, really spills over, and
thank
I'm
you.
so feel so grateful for having discovered fluid running, having a chance to have a conversation with you, and share this really beautiful app that you have, the system that you have, and just your mindset. Like, what a gift to connect with. I truly want to
Oh,
thank you. And
thank you.
yeah, and I wonder, just as we, land this plane, so to speak, I'm curious. The name of the podcast is "Pause to Elevate."
Hmm.
And what is it that helps you to pause and elevate things? What helps you pause? Whether it's taking time for yourself, whether it
Yeah.
is fluid running, like what is
Yeah.
it that helps you
Yeah.
pause?
I mean, when people know me, I'm kind of high energy, a little bit of, type A and all that, but I spend probably 40 minutes every morning in quiet and prayer and meditation.
Mm,
And I end my day every day. So that I don't pause a whole lot during the day,
mm,
but I'm like 40 minutes in quiet time. Like my husband and my son still lives at home right now. Come down, I have put my Bose noise canceling headphones on, and they know no one is to bother me. But that's the first thing I do every morning. I go right down and I go into meditation and I go into prayer and gratitude. And I
mm.
always say like, it's like impossible to not to be in a bad mood when you finish that. I don't know how you can. I mean, my cup of coffee helps too. I love coffee with just
Yes.
about anything. I said if I had to pick one food drink item and I can only have one thing for the rest of my life and my body would be healthy and sustained, it would be coffee. But no, every morning, about 40 minutes. It takes me that long. I kind of have this like set things of who I pray for and what meditation I do and what set of gratitude
Mm.
practice. And then I actually fall asleep to a meditation every night that I actually have to like set a timer to wake myself up. Otherwise, I wake up in the middle of the night and then I can't fall back asleep. But so I bookend. But
That's
I mean,
beautiful.
every religiously vacation. My husband was where my husband say, "Where have you found your meditation?" I'll get to a hotel. I'm like, "Where am I going to meditate?" So, uh, I can't imagine not being a part of my life. So,
Mm.
and
Oh,
I wake up early to do it. I wouldn't miss it. So yeah, it's critical. It's critical. So
mm.
yeah, I definitely take time to pause every day, beginning and end.
Yes.
Yes.
How beautiful is that? And,
Yeah.
the commitment to do it, like it does require,
Yes.
determination,
Yes.
committing.
Yeah.
But really, what we get back from a practice is so helpful. Like it takes time to
Yeah.
meditate, it takes time
Yes.
to do gratitude, to do
Yeah.
prayers, all the
Yeah.
things you're doing.
Yeah.
but actually it ends up saving us time because we're connecting to who we are, we're recharging, we're ready to face the world in a better capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
world's a little tough right now, as we all know, you know?
yeah,
But to spend time like, praying for those that really need it, and then realizing how grateful, what you have, and being grateful for what you have, it really helps. It really helps that mindset. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Well, thank you, and I'm wondering any final words for listeners who are thinking about fluid running or going through maybe a challenge in life. Any final words?
Yeah, like like I said, don't. First of all, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Be. It's okay. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself. And I did that. Like when I go back to how this all started with my early divorce. Oh my God, I cried every day for a year straight.
Mm,
Give yourself the grace, but then you know start to you know think about the possibility, and first of all,
mm,
know that one of my favorite lines in life is, this too shall pass. I love that line.
yeah.
If you're in a hard place right now, you're not going to stay that way. So this too shall pass, and just know that it's going to pass, but you also might have to take some certainly baby steps to start, and maybe some more challenging steps along the way, but it'll pay off. I promise that there's that rainbow on the other side of
Yeah.
whatever it is you're going through, or if you're striving for a goal, it's there.
Mm. Well, thank you for bringing so much sunshine and rainbows with so much energy. And
uh,
thank you for what you've done in the world and continue to do.
well, thank
And
you.
truly, I know personally, I want to thank you again for what you've created. I so enjoyed it and it has made a difference in my life. And that's why I've reached out to you to spread the word about this fluid
Oh,
running.
well, that makes me so
And
happy, and I really
truly,
appreciate this. Yes. Oh,
truly, thank you so much. And I want to thank all the listeners for the time that you took to listen to this. May it be supportive. And if it is, feel free to share, like, and subscribe if you haven't. And I'll put the link again to the code you can use if you're going to get the system to get an extra audio. And the code is Dr. Kasim. So hope this supports you in your journey. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello there, and thank you so much for stopping by this channel. I hope you find this content useful, and if you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It will really help me to reach to more people and keep this content going. Here we are journeying together, and let's see where this takes us.